It's hard to pick one favorite because we interviewed probably 100, 150 people for this book, and that included a lot of, filmmakers, film producers, even financiers to find out what attracted them to the project and, was there an audience built in that made them say, we want to be involved in this? And as you mentioned, the case studies range from shorts to feature films to a documentary film, and that is the one that I would focus on right now. There was a documentary called A Mile and a Half, and it's a really interesting story, and it encompasses everything that we talk about audience building, which at the core of crowdsourcing is what we're talking about, is audience building. But it's also about the fact that you could source anything, and that's what I love about this story. This is a documentary that 5 cinematographers and 1 sound engineer decided that they wanted to do. They were all fitness freaks. So they decided that they were going to go on a hike together. They were going to go do a camping thing. And they started thinking about this further, and they said, why don't we go hike the John Muir Trail? And the John Muir Trail is about a 206-mile hike in the Pacific Northwest where you have to get, I think about maybe 50 permits a year where you could hike the whole thing. You could hike parts of it, but to hike the whole thing, you need a special permit. And they said, why don't we go, film this thing? Let's take the most state-of-the-art equipment, video-wise, audio-wise, and film all these different ecosystems in a way that has never been seen before, because most people haven't seen it. It's sort of this thing in America that people don't really know about, or they haven't seen it on film. And they said, well, let's go bring that to the public. Doesn't seem like a really sexy documentary in a lot of ways, and they wanted to go out and they wanted to raise $85,000, which is an enormous number for a documentary for this subject matter. But here's what they did that was really cool. They said, okay, let's think about who the audience is for this film, which should be the first question that anyone should be asking when they're for any project, anyway, you should ask who the audience is for this film. And they said, okay, well, we know who's going to really like it. The nature freaks, the health and fitness buffs, the people that love camping, the outdoorsmen, the outdoorswomen, they're going to love it. But let's see if we could expand that. And they said, you know what? Well, why do we want to do this? Well, we want to do this because we're gearheads, because we love film, we love documentaries. And they said, well, let's go to the people that probably love the same. So they went to all the gearhead boards and everything like that, and they started telling them, look, this is like 6 months before they even launched the crowdfunding campaign. So this is a long time, okay? And this is why, because audience building takes a long time. But they went to all these different groups and they said, look, this is what we're looking to do. Are we crazy? What should we be thinking about? What should we, how should we, they started running contests, for example, like, we're going to be traveling heavy with all the equipment. How do we travel light food-wise? What kind of meals can we carry in a camping cup? And people started writing in. And what they were doing was they were identifying their audience and then engaging, and then they were giving them ownership. They were saying, help us. Be a part of what we're doing. How many miles a day is too much? What kind of footwear should we wear? All of this stuff. And what ended up happening was there was this sort of really interesting groundswell of support that went on. And then what happened, even better, was that some of these people got so behind them, they started writing equipment companies and camping equipment and even electronics companies and camera companies and saying, check out what these guys are doing. And they started getting contacted by these companies who started donating equipment and donating camping gear. And then REI got involved, of all things. REI is a gigantic outdoors company. They gave them all the equipment. They said, you could take it all. This is so awesome. We're going to write about it on the blog. Just mention us in the credits. Just give us a thank you. And here you go. So they were crowdsourcing equipment. They were crowdsourcing everything. By the time they went to turn on their crowdfunding campaign 6 months later, and they finally asked this audience that they identified and they had engaged and who they had given value to and ownership to, when they asked them to move, they moved like that. And that $85,000 was raised in 4 days. I believe it was 4 days. And they hit their goal that quickly, and they surpassed their goal. What was better, and this is a big part of it, they continued to deliver on their promises even after they got into post-production. They didn't just film the movie and then disappear. They were showing them pictures in the post-production and giving them added extra scenes that weren't going to be in the movie. They kept giving value and giving value. When the film finally premiered at the LA Film Festival, they had to open up another theater because so many people showed up. Okay, and that's the first time it's happened in the festival's history. When the movie got released on iTunes, it went to number 2 in the first day behind Hero Dreams of Sushi. And it is very difficult to crack the top 10 on documentaries, especially day 1 on iTunes. but this was the groundswell of support. They still, to this day, reach out to everybody, and they keep talking about the next film. These backers are ready to just run through a wall for them. This is the army of boots on the ground that they built up. And they have a lot of other gear companies still saying, next movie, you tell us what you need. Next movie, you know, whatever you need us to do. That's crowdsourcing at its finest, and that's why I love that story.